What if I told you that for 30 days, from the first light of dawn until the sun disappears beyond the horizon, your body enters a state that reshapes not only your hunger, not only your habits, but your very soul? What if the dryness in your throat, the quiet ache in your stomach, and the slowing of your steps were not signs of weakness, but signs that you are walking a path chosen for you by Allah Himself? Ramadan is not simply a month without food and drink. It is a divine prescription written in the Quran, revealed by the Lord of the heavens and the earth, who says, "O you who believe, fasting has been prescribed upon you as it was prescribed upon those before you, that you may attain taqwa." Before we go deeper, thank you for being here with Islamic Insight channel. From which country are you watching this video? Share it in the comments, and if you love learning about Islam and strengthening your faith, subscribe and join this growing family. Now imagine the first morning of Ramadan. The world is still wrapped in darkness. The air is quiet, almost heavy with anticipation. A believer wakes before dawn, not because of work, not because of an alarm alone, but because of intention. The pre-dawn meal is simple, maybe dates, bread, water, something light. But what makes it powerful is not the food, it is the intention in the heart. The Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, taught that actions are judged by intentions, and every person will have what they intended. That means even before the fast technically begins, the transformation has already started. The heart has chosen obedience. The body will follow. When the call for Fajr prayer enters, everything changes. From that moment until sunset, not a drop of water, not a bite of food, not even a casual sip is allowed. It is a command from Allah. And this is where the miracle begins. In the first few hours, your body is calm. The meal you ate before dawn is still being digested. Glucose circulates in your bloodstream, providing energy to your brain and muscles. Insulin works quietly, moving sugar into your cells. On the surface, it feels almost normal, but spiritually, it is anything but normal. You are consciously refusing something that is completely lawful, something you could easily take in secret, something no human authority is forcing you to avoid. And yet you refrain. Why? Because Allah sees you. This is the essence of fasting. The Prophet, peace be upon him, narrated that Allah says, "Fasting is for me, and I will reward it. He leaves his desires and his food for my sake." In those early morning hours, while the body still feels stable, the soul is already learning sincerity. There is no applause for fasting. No one may even know you are fasting. It is a hidden act between you and your Creator, and that secrecy changes the quality of the worship. It purifies intention. It strengthens awareness. It plants the seed of taqwa, that deep consciousness that Allah is watching, Allah is near, Allah is aware of every private struggle. As the sun rises higher and the morning stretches toward midday, the body begins to notice the absence of intake. The stomach empties. The digestive system slows down. Normally, a person might reach for a snack, a cup of coffee, a bottle of water. During Ramadan, that instinct is met with restraint. This is when the physical shift begins to deepen. After several hours without food, insulin levels start to drop. The body turns to its stored reserves. Glycogen, which is stored in the liver, becomes the main source of fuel. It is released steadily to maintain blood sugar levels. There is wisdom in this design. Allah created the human body with the ability to endure periods of fasting long before modern science understood the details. Yet the experience is not just chemical, it is emotional and spiritual. Hunger whispers, thirst gently knocks, and in that whisper, there is a test. The Prophet described fasting as a shield. A shield from what? From sinful behavior, from uncontrolled anger, from careless speech. He said that if someone insults a fasting person or tries to provoke him, he should respond by saying, "I am fasting." Think about that for a moment. The hunger in your stomach becomes a reminder to guard your tongue. The dryness in your throat becomes a reminder to soften your words. The body's discomfort becomes protection for the heart. By the time midday arrives, the fast feels real. The early stability begins to fade. Blood sugar levels are lower than usual. The brain, which constantly demands energy, starts adjusting. The body transitions gradually from using stored carbohydrates to using fat as a source of fuel. Fat cells release fatty acids into the bloodstream. The liver begins producing ketones, which can nourish the brain when glucose becomes limited. What feels like weakness is actually adaptation. The body is not collapsing. It is switching systems, moving from immediate fuel to long-term reserves. It is a built-in survival mechanism placed there by Allah in His infinite wisdom. At the same time, something else is happening inside the believer. As hunger deepens, empathy grows. The one who has never missed a meal begins to taste what millions around the world feel, not by choice, but by circumstance. Ramadan is a month of charity for this reason. The Prophet, peace be upon him, was described as being more generous than a flowing wind during this month. Hunger softens the heart. It strips away arrogance. When your own stomach tightens, it becomes harder to ignore the suffering of others. The dryness of the mouth becomes noticeable by early afternoon. Saliva decreases. The tongue may feel heavy. And yet there is a remarkable narration where the Prophet said that the smell from the mouth of a fasting person is more beloved to Allah than the fragrance of musk. What the world might consider unpleasant becomes honored in the sight of the Creator. This changes how a believer views discomfort. It is no longer something meaningless. It carries value. It carries reward. Energy may dip during these hours. Movements become more deliberate. The body conserves strength, but instead of seeing this as a loss, the believer begins to understand it as a reminder of human limitation. We are not self-sustaining. We are not independent beings who thrive without provision. Every sip of water we take outside Ramadan is a gift. Every meal is mercy. Fasting exposes how fragile we truly are, and that realization draws the heart closer to Allah. There is also a psychological transformation unfolding. Modern life trains people to respond immediately to desire. Hungry? Eat. Thirsty? Drink. Tired? Stimulate yourself with caffeine. Ramadan interrupts that pattern. It teaches delay. It teaches patience. It teaches that desire does not control you. The Prophet said that whoever does not leave false speech and evil action, Allah has no need of him leaving his food and drink. This means the fast is not confined to the stomach. The eyes must fast from what is forbidden. The ears must fast from gossip. The tongue must fast from lies and cruelty. The body becomes disciplined and the soul begins to rise. As the day progresses toward late afternoon, the body is now more reliant on fat metabolism. Glycogen stores are lower. Hormones that regulate hunger, such as ghrelin, fluctuate. The sensation of hunger may come in waves. Sometimes it is strong, then it fades. The believer learns something powerful here. Hunger is not permanent. It rises and falls. Just like sadness, just like anger, just like temptation. If you do not immediately obey it, it does not destroy you. It passes, and through all of this, the fast remains an act of worship. It is not dieting. It is not a health trend. It is obedience rooted in revelation. It is connected to the Quran, the month in which it was revealed as guidance for mankind. Every hour of fasting is tied to that divine speech. Every moment of restraint is recorded. The Prophet promised that whoever fasts Ramadan with faith and seeking reward will have his previous sins forgiven. That promise hovers over every dry throat and every patient sigh. So in these first long hours, from dawn to midday and beyond, your body is adapting, conserving, recalibrating. But more importantly, your heart is awakening. Your dependence on Allah becomes clearer. Your gratitude deepens, your awareness sharpens. What begins as a physical fast slowly becomes something far greater, a surrender of desire, a purification of intention, and a journey back to the one who created your body, designed its systems, and commanded you to fast for your own ultimate success. As the afternoon deepens and the sun begins its slow descent, the fast enters a different phase. This is the stretch of the day when the body feels the weight of abstinence most clearly. Glycogen stores in the liver are now significantly reduced. The easy energy that carried you through the morning is no longer readily available. The body has shifted more fully into burning fat for fuel, releasing fatty acids into the bloodstream, converting some of them into ketones to keep the brain alert and functioning. There is a quiet intelligence in this process. Your body was designed with the capacity to endure, to adapt, to survive without constant intake. What feels like depletion is actually a demonstration of resilience built into you by the one who created you. Yet the physical sensation is undeniable. There may be a slight heaviness in the limbs. Concentration might require more effort. The mouth is dry, the tongue feels thick, and even simple movements are performed with greater awareness. This is often the hour when patience is tested. The Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, did not pretend that fasting would be easy. Instead, he elevated the struggle itself. He informed us that the smell from the mouth of the fasting person is more beloved to Allah than the fragrance of musk. Reflect on that carefully. What society might view as an inconvenience or an unpleasant side effect becomes, in the sight of Allah, something honored and cherished. That transforms the entire experience. The dryness is no longer embarrassing. The fatigue is no longer pointless. Every sensation becomes meaningful. In these late afternoon hours, digestion has been resting for many hours. The stomach is not busy breaking down food. The pancreas is not repeatedly releasing insulin in response to meals. The entire digestive system is in a state of relative calm. The body is conserving energy, allocating resources carefully. Blood flow that would normally assist in digestion is redirected to maintain essential functions. The rhythm of the body slows slightly, and in that slowing, there is space for reflection. Hunger is not just a biological signal now, it becomes a spiritual teacher. It reminds you that you are not self-sufficient. You do not generate your own sustenance. Every bite you have ever eaten, every sip you have ever taken, was provided by Allah long before it reached your hands. The Prophet described fasting as a shield. A shield suggests protection in the midst of vulnerability. In these hours, when energy is lower and irritability can surface, the shield becomes crucial. It is easy to become short-tempered when tired. It is easy to snap when thirsty. Yet the fasting person remembers the instruction. If someone argues with him or insults him, let him say, "I am fasting." This simple declaration is not merely an announcement, it is a reminder to the self. It says, "I am engaged in worship. I will not let this moment of discomfort ruin the reward I am building." The body may feel strained, but the soul is being fortified. As the sun edges closer to the horizon, anticipation begins to build. There is a subtle shift in the air, a quiet awareness that the day is nearly complete. This final hour before sunset is often described by those who fast as the most intense. Energy levels are at their lowest point of the day. Blood sugar is reduced, hydration is minimal. The throat feels parched in a way that only a fasting person understands. And yet, paradoxically, this is one of the most spiritually powerful moments of the entire day. The Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said that the fasting person has a supplication that is not rejected at the time of breaking the fast. In other words, as your body feels its weakest, your connection to Allah may be at its strongest. There is something profoundly humbling about standing in need, feeling hunger, feeling thirst, and raising your hands in supplication. The ego softens. Pride dissolves. You are acutely aware of your dependence. You understand that relief will not come until Allah permits the sun to set. You cannot rush it. You cannot negotiate with it. You wait in obedience. And in that waiting, sincerity deepens. The heart speaks differently when the body is empty. Gratitude begins to form even before the first sip of water touches your lips. You start appreciating what you do not yet have, because you know it is about to return as a mercy. Then the moment arrives. The sun disappears below the horizon, and with that disappearance, permission is granted. The Prophet encouraged believers to hasten in breaking the fast, and would often break it with fresh dates. If fresh dates were not available, then dried dates, and if those were not available, then a few sips of water. There is wisdom in this simplicity. After long hours without intake, the body does not need a heavy burden. It needs gentle nourishment. When the first date enters the mouth, the natural sugars are quickly absorbed. Blood glucose begins to rise. The brain receives fresh energy. When water touches the dry throat, it feels almost overwhelming in its sweetness, even though it is plain and simple. In that first moment of iftar, there is a wave of relief that travels through the body. Muscles relax. The tension that built quietly over the day begins to melt away. Hydration starts restoring balance to tissues and cells. The digestive system, which has been resting, slowly awakens. Enzymes are released. The stomach prepares to process food again, but alongside these biological responses, there is a joy that the Prophet described so beautifully. He said that the fasting person has two joys, one when he breaks his fast and one when he meets his Lord. That first joy is immediate and tangible. It is the happiness of obedience fulfilled. You were commanded to abstain, and you abstained. You were commanded to wait, and you waited. Now you are permitted to eat, and you eat with gratitude. The taste of food after fasting is unlike any other time. Even something simple feels luxurious. A sip of water feels like a gift beyond measure. Dates taste richer. Bread feels softer. Soup feels warmer. The body, having experienced deprivation, responds with heightened appreciation. This is one of the hidden wisdoms of fasting. It resets your relationship with consumption. When you eat constantly, food becomes ordinary. When you abstain for hours in obedience to Allah, food becomes a blessing you consciously recognize. As you continue to eat moderately, blood sugar stabilizes further. The body begins replenishing glycogen stores in the liver and muscles. Electrolytes are restored with fluids. Hormones that regulate hunger and satiety adjust once again. There is a gentle return to physical strength. However, the Prophet warned against excess, even at this moment. He taught that the son of Adam does not fill any vessel worse than his stomach, and that a few bites are sufficient to keep his back straight. If he must eat more, then 1/3 for food, 1/3 for drink, and 1/3 left for breath. This guidance protects both body and soul. Overeating after fasting can lead to discomfort, heaviness, and lethargy. Moderation preserves the spiritual clarity that the day cultivated. After iftar, a renewed sense of vitality often appears. The body, now fueled and hydrated, regains energy. Many people find that despite the long day, they are able to stand in prayer at night with unexpected strength. This is not accidental. When you discipline your desires during the day, you free yourself from their constant demands. The energy that was once scattered across impulses becomes focused. Digestion proceeds steadily. Nutrients are absorbed into the bloodstream. Cells receive what they need for repair and function. Meanwhile, the heart turns toward the remembrance of Allah. The transition from fasting to prayer in the evening carries deep meaning. You break your fast not with indulgence, but with gratitude. You stand in prayer not out of routine, but out of appreciation. The body that felt weak in the late afternoon now stands upright, bowing and prostrating before its Creator. Circulation improves with movement. Muscles engage gently. The rhythm of prayer aligns breath, body, and intention. There is harmony between the physical and the spiritual. The same body that endured hunger now participates in worship with strength restored. Over time, this daily cycle of depletion and replenishment teaches powerful lessons. You learn that weakness is temporary. You learn that relief comes at the appointed time. You learn that obedience, even when difficult, leads to sweetness. The final hour before sunset no longer feels like punishment. It feels like anticipation. The first sip of water no longer feels ordinary. It feels sacred. The entire body becomes a participant in worship, not just the tongue that recites or the mind that reflects. In these phases of the fast, from the deep afternoon strain to the profound relief of iftar and the renewed strength of the evening, you witness the wisdom of divine legislation. Allah did not command fasting to harm you. He commanded it to elevate you. Your metabolism shifts, your hormones adjust, your digestive system rests and reactivates in balance. But more importantly, your heart is trained. Your patience expands, your gratitude intensifies, your awareness sharpens. You begin to see that the body is not merely a physical entity to be fed and satisfied. It is a vessel entrusted to you, capable of obedience, capable of discipline, capable of drawing you closer to your Lord through hunger, through thirst, and through the simple, beautiful act of waiting until Allah says, "It is time." Once the evening meal settles and the initial relief of breaking the fast begins to calm, another transformation quietly unfolds. The body, which only hours ago felt drained and heavy with thirst, now experiences a steady return of strength. Glucose circulates once again through the bloodstream. Muscles receive fuel. The brain regains clarity. Hydration spreads through tissues that were dry and strained. Yet this restoration is not meant to lead back to heedlessness. Ramadan does not alternate between starvation and indulgence. It alternates between restraint and gratitude, between hunger and worship. The night carries its own sacred rhythm, and the believer steps into it with intention. After eating in moderation, the body enters a state of balanced digestion. Enzymes break down food into usable nutrients. The liver begins restoring glycogen reserves that were depleted during the day. Electrolytes that dropped during hours without water are replenished. Circulation improves. There is a natural lift in mood as blood sugar stabilizes. But something deeper than biology is taking place. The believer rises for night prayer, standing in long rows, reciting the words of the Quran that were revealed in this very month. The same body that felt fragile before sunset now stands upright in devotion. This contrast is not accidental. It is a sign that strength does not come only from constant consumption, but from obedience. The Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, would increase his worship in Ramadan, especially during the night. He stood in prayer until his feet would swell, and when asked why he exerted himself so much when his past and future sins were forgiven, he replied, "Should I not be a grateful servant?" That statement changes the entire perspective. Worship is not a burden placed on an exhausted body. It is gratitude expressed through a body that has been sustained by Allah. After fasting all day, standing in prayer becomes a testimony that your energy belongs to Him. Your strength is a trust from Him. Your time is a gift from Him. As the nights of Ramadan continue, the body begins to adapt more efficiently to this pattern of fasting and feeding, rest and prayer. Hunger signals that felt sharp in the first days become more manageable. The waves of thirst become less overwhelming. Hormonal rhythms begin adjusting to the new schedule. Ghrelin, the hormone associated with hunger, aligns itself more closely with the times of iftar and suhoor. The body learns when to expect nourishment and when to rely on internal reserves. What once felt like disruption becomes routine. This adaptation reflects a profound design. Allah created the human body with flexibility, capable of thriving under varying conditions. Fasting does not break it. It refines it. At the same time, spiritual habits begin forming with equal strength. Recitation of the Quran increases. The tongue becomes more familiar with remembrance. The heart grows more sensitive to wrongdoing. In the beginning of Ramadan, resisting a careless word may require effort. By the middle of the month, that restraint becomes more natural. The Prophet warned that whoever does not abandon false speech and evil action, Allah has no need of him leaving his food and drink. That warning echoes through the days. Fasting is not an isolated ritual of hunger. It is a comprehensive discipline of character. As the days accumulate, something remarkable happens to desire itself. The constant urge to snack, to sip, to satisfy every small craving begins to weaken. The body proves to you that it can function for long hours without immediate gratification. This realization spills into other areas of life. If you can resist water on a hot afternoon for the sake of Allah, then resisting temptation becomes more believable. If you can ignore hunger that rises and falls in waves, then you can ignore impulses that once felt irresistible. Fasting exposes the exaggeration of desire. It shows that many urges are temporary, not fatal. Physically, the sustained pattern of fasting encourages the body to become more efficient at burning stored fat for energy. Metabolic flexibility improves. Insulin sensitivity may increase as the body experiences extended periods without intake. The digestive system enjoys regular intervals of rest. Cells engage in processes of maintenance and repair that are more active during fasting states. While believers do not fast for medical trends or scientific validation, it is a mercy that the divine command carries wisdom even at the cellular level. The one who revealed the Quran is the one who designed the human organism. There is harmony between revelation and creation. Yet the most profound changes are not visible in blood tests or measurements. They are felt in the heart. Hunger softens arrogance. Thirst humbles the ego. When you stand in prayer at night after a full day of fasting, there is a vulnerability that makes supplication more sincere. You recognize your dependence more clearly. You feel gratitude more deeply. You begin to understand why the Quran describes Ramadan as the month in which guidance was sent down for humanity. Guidance is not only intellectual, it is experiential. It reshapes how you feel about food, time, patience, and obedience. There is also a social transformation unfolding during these days. The shared experience of fasting binds communities together. When families sit at the table waiting for sunset, there is unity in the silence. When the call to prayer signals the time to break the fast, there is collective relief. The wealthy and the poor experience hunger side by side. The one who has abundance at night cannot forget the sensation of emptiness during the day. This shared deprivation nurtures generosity. The Prophet was described as being more generous in Ramadan than at any other time, and his generosity flowed especially when he would meet with the angel Jibril to review the Quran. The more he engaged with revelation, the more he gave. That connection is not coincidental. Fasting detaches the heart from constant consumption and opens it toward giving. As the routine continues into the later days of Ramadan, the body no longer reacts with shock to the absence of daytime meals. Instead, it anticipates the rhythm. Energy levels stabilize. Mental clarity during fasting hours often improves as the body becomes accustomed to using fat and ketones as fuel. The initial headaches or fatigue that some experience at the beginning of the month tend to fade. There is a sense of lightness that replaces the heaviness of constant eating. The stomach, no longer overwhelmed throughout the day, feels calmer. Sleep patterns shift, but the believer learns to function within this sacred structure tied to prayer times rather than personal convenience. And then there is the deeper cleansing that occurs beyond physical adaptation. Fasting becomes a detoxification of habits. The tongue learns restraint. The eyes become more guarded. the ears become selective. You realize how often you consumed not only food, but distraction, gossip, complaint, and excess speech. Ramadan exposes these patterns. When the stomach is empty, it becomes easier to notice what fills the heart. If the heart is filled with anger, envy, or arrogance, fasting brings those impurities to the surface. It forces confrontation. The Prophet said that fasting is a shield, but a shield only protects when it is used properly. If someone spends the day hungry but continues to lie, backbite, or harm others, the deeper purpose of fasting is lost. In this way, fasting burns more than calories. It burns heedlessness. It burns complacency. It burns the illusion that comfort is necessary for survival. You learn that you can endure discomfort and remain steady. You learn that your body is stronger than your cravings, and your soul is capable of rising above instinct. The hunger that once felt threatening becomes familiar. The thirst that once felt unbearable becomes manageable. Each sunset becomes proof that endurance leads to relief. By the time these days accumulate into weeks, Ramadan no longer feels like an interruption to life. It feels like life itself, purified and structured around obedience. The body has adapted. The heart has softened. The habits have shifted. What began as a command to abstain from food and drink has unfolded into a comprehensive transformation of body and soul. And through every phase, from the restored strength of the evening prayers to the steady adaptation of metabolism and the deep cleansing of desires, one truth becomes undeniable. Fasting is not deprivation, it is elevation. It lifts the believer from automatic living into intentional worship, from constant consumption into conscious gratitude, from scattered desire into disciplined devotion. As the night deepens and most of the world sinks into sleep, the believer in Ramadan lives in a different rhythm. There is a sacred stillness in the last portion of the night, a quiet that feels almost suspended between earth and heaven. The body, having eaten moderately at iftar and perhaps rested for a few hours, is called once again to rise. This is not an ordinary waking. It is the time of suhoor, the pre-dawn meal that the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, strongly encouraged. He said, "Take suhoor, for indeed in suhoor there is blessing." That blessing is not only in the food itself. It is in the act of rising for the sake of obedience, in aligning your body with a command that begins before the sun appears. When you wake in that final stretch of night, the body feels different from how it does in the afternoon. It is not drained by hunger. It is rested, perhaps slightly heavy with sleep, but calm. The digestive system has already processed much of the evening meal. Blood sugar levels are stable. Hormones that regulate sleep and wakefulness are shifting as dawn approaches. When you eat at suhoor, even if it is something simple like dates and water, you are preparing the body for another cycle of endurance. The Prophet described this meal as a distinction between our fasting and the fasting of other communities. It carries identity. It carries intention. Even a sip of water, taken with the intention of strengthening yourself for worship, becomes an act of devotion. There is also something profoundly intimate about this time. The last third of the night is described in authentic hadith as a time when Allah descends in a manner befitting His Majesty, and asks, "Who is calling upon me that I may answer him? Who is asking of me that I may give him? Who is seeking my forgiveness that I may forgive him?" Imagine eating your pre-dawn meal while knowing that the doors of mercy are wide open. The body is being nourished, but the soul is being invited. Supplications made in these moments carry a depth that daylight distractions often dilute. You are awake when many are asleep. You are choosing obedience over comfort. The rhythm of Ramadan is shaping not only your metabolism, but your priorities. After suhoor, the line of dawn appears, and once again the fast begins. Day after day, this cycle repeats. Over time, it does more than regulate hunger. It builds endurance into your character. You begin to notice that your reactions change. Situations that would have triggered anger now feel less urgent. Impulses that once demanded immediate satisfaction feel weaker. This is the deeper transformation that fasting was meant to produce. The Quran states that fasting was prescribed so that you may attain taqwa. Taqwa is not simply fear. It is a heightened awareness of Allah, a consciousness that influences decisions even in private moments. When you deny yourself lawful food and drink for hours, fully capable of taking them in secret yet choosing not to, you are training your inner self. You are proving to your own heart that obedience is possible, even when no one is watching. This internal discipline spills over into other areas of life. The one who can resist water on a long summer afternoon can resist a forbidden glance. The one who can endure hunger with patience can endure hardship without complaint. The body becomes a tool in the service of the soul. Its appetites are no longer masters. They are servants. The Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said that whoever fasts Ramadan with faith and seeking reward will have his previous sins forgiven. Notice the conditions: faith and seeking reward. This is not automatic. It requires consciousness. It requires sincerity. As Ramadan progresses, you begin to measure your days not by productivity and worldly terms, but by sincerity in worship. Did you guard your tongue? Did you lower your gaze? Did you forgive when provoked? Did you remember Allah when your energy was low? These questions reshape how you evaluate yourself. Physically, the cumulative effect of fasting may leave the body feeling lighter. Many people notice reduced bloating, improved awareness of hunger cues, and a more conscious relationship with food. But even if physical changes are subtle, the psychological shift is undeniable. Constant consumption dulls sensitivity. Fasting sharpens it. When you eat less frequently, you taste more deeply. When you drink after thirst, you appreciate more fully. Gratitude becomes visceral. You no longer say Alhamdulillah as a routine phrase. You feel it in your chest when water touches your lips. There is also a confrontation with weakness that fasting brings to the surface. There are days when the fast feels heavier than others. Perhaps sleep was short. Perhaps the weather is hot. Perhaps stress weighs on the mind. In those moments, you realize how fragile you are. A few hours without water can slow you down. A missed meal can reduce your energy. This fragility humbles you. It dismantles the illusion of independence. You understand more clearly that your strength is borrowed. Your health is a gift. Your ability to function is sustained moment by Allah. And then Ramadan moves toward its final days. The nights grow more precious. The search for Laylat al-Qadr intensifies. That night which is better than 1,000 months. The body, though accustomed to the fasting cycle, may feel cumulative fatigue. Yet the heart feels urgency. The Prophet would tighten his belt in the last 10 nights, increase his worship, and wake his family. There is a sense that time is slipping away. The body may crave rest, but the soul craves nearness to Allah. This tension reveals where your true priorities lie. As the month draws to a close, you begin to reflect on who you were before it began. The first day felt challenging. Hunger felt sharp. Thirst felt distracting. Now those sensations feel familiar, even meaningful. You have proven to yourself that you can live with less. You can eat less. You can sleep less. You can speak less. And in doing so, you can feel more connected. The final lesson of fasting is not about the body alone. It is about meeting Allah. The Prophet spoke of 2 joys for the fasting person. One is at the time of breaking the fast. The other is when he meets his Lord. Every sunset in Ramadan is a small rehearsal for that greater meeting. Throughout the day, you abstain because Allah commanded it. At sunset, you break your fast because Allah permitted it. You move according to divine instruction. Life itself follows the same pattern. You live within boundaries set by your Creator. And one day, the fast of this world will end. Death will arrive as surely as sunset arrives each evening. When that moment comes, the body will no longer require food or drink. The soul will return to its Lord. For the one who fasted sincerely, who endured hunger seeking reward, who guarded his limbs and purified his intention, there will be a joy greater than any iftar. Imagine standing before Allah with days and nights of Ramadan recorded in your favor. Imagine the scale heavy with patience, with gratitude, with hidden acts of restraint known only to Him. The Prophet described a gate in paradise called Ar-Rayyan, through which only those who fasted will enter. When they enter, it will be closed, and no one else will pass through it. This is not a small promise. It is an honor reserved for those who discipline their bodies for the sake of their Lord. So what ultimately happens to your body when you fast during Ramadan? It adjusts, it adapts, it learns to conserve and to endure. It becomes lighter, more efficient, more aware of hunger and fullness. But more importantly, it becomes a companion in worship. It kneels in prayer when it could have rested. It abstains when it could have consumed. It waits when it could have rushed. Through hunger and thirst, it teaches the soul patience. Through fatigue, it teaches humility. Through relief at sunset, it teaches gratitude. When Ramadan ends and normal routines resume, the body returns to regular patterns of eating and drinking. Yet the memory of hunger remains. The echo of those long afternoons remains. The sweetness of that first sip of water remains. If the fast was sincere, its impact does not disappear with the crescent of the next month. It leaves behind a refined heart, a disciplined self, and a deeper awareness that life itself is a journey of temporary restraint before eternal reward. In that sense, every day of fasting was preparing you for something far greater than physical endurance. It was preparing you to meet Allah with a heart that knows how to wait, how to submit, and how to be grateful.